following along with kind of the gold standard idea of having a finite amount of a currency, because the US dollar is essentially worthless. It means nothing. It's backed by the US military. Like that's why the dollar has value. Is because
pretty good reason.
Yeah, it is. But as soon as we lose control of the petroleum industry, we're because basically the dollar is backed by oil. Every single country in the world has to buy dollars in order to buy oil. So
isn't oil backed by dollars? I mean, that's what you got to use if you want some.
It's
you're buying it from Russia.
Well, that's the thing is Russia, I think, made an agreement with China that they would be buying in rubles. OPEC just bucked the Biden administration, which is not a hard thing to do because they have no teeth. But bucked the Biden administration, was like, no, we're cutting oil production. Sorry, like you don't get a say. So the world is moving in a direction where the US dollar, which of course is, you have to buy oil on the dollar, therefore the dollar retains value. That's going away, which is going to be a really big problem for us. And if you basically any chart you look at of the US economy after 1971, shit goes off the rails in a way that's bad for everybody except the government. And that's the year we got off of the Glass-Steagall, I think it was.
If everybody wasn't using dollars 20 years from now, if everybody's not still using dollars 25 years from now, I would be more surprised than if you found a ghost. I think we're solid there. And the U.S. military is a really good reason for something to be valuable. It might be the greatest reason ever.
And we say the Biden administration has no teeth, but I bet Russia disagrees.
Yeah, I would say so. We're sending scarier and scarier stuff. Yeah. It concerns me a little that we're sending so much stuff because at some point, like,
isn't that our really stuff? How much do we have?
We're doing different. We're getting into them in different ways. I think they're doing some lend-lease stuff, right? Where they'll have to pay us back, but they're also just like sometimes Germany will have a bunch of missile defense systems, and so we'll pay Germany to give their systems to the Ukrainians. So there's a lot of that going on. And then obviously Biden got it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 billion so far that he's given to Ukraine. It may be more than that now. And I noticed that Russia's I think it's
way more than that.
Russia's annual defense budget, what they spend on their military, is only 60 or 70 billion. And we've already given a considerable fraction of that to Ukraine this year ourselves, not counting what everybody else has given. It's no wonder the Ukrainians are doing so well. That, and they seem to be much more into fighting than the Russians are.
The Russians just seem bad at it.
They don't want to be there. They don't want to do it.
They don't want to be there. Their logistics are a problem. All right, I get it. Motivation is an issue, or morale, I meant to say, is an issue. But it seems like their entire command structure and the idea of just loading it all on trains.
If you can,
I think motivation was a good word for it.
I can't fight. I cannot fight for you, even if I believe in the cause, unless you keep me fed and warm. There's no way. Not long term. Maybe this week I'll put it in. I'll go hard for you, boss. Hungry and cold, I'll fight all week. But what are we gonna do next week? My feet are rotting off now.
I have no argument against that. You need to feed and warm. Those are core things. You have an ineffective force if you don't have those. I read 1.5 million winter uniforms have gone missing.
I think
that's the other thing. Here's what's going to be great. This is going to show how third class Russia really is. Winter's coming, which means snow is coming. Everybody's going to have to change uniforms pretty soon. We don't wear green uniforms when there's snow on the ground. We wear white uniforms. Ukraine will have white uniforms. I guarantee it. We're not letting our kid go to t-ball practice without the right cleats. It ain't happening. Russia, on the other hand.
I love that analogy.
I bet they're showing up with some. Dolly Parton has this song called The Coat of Many Colors. And it's about being so impoverished and so poor that when wintertime came, her mother sewed together all the scraps of cloth around the house and made a coat of many colors. And she sang about how she loved her daughter while she sewed it. And she went to school and they all made fun of her coat of many colors.
It was really just because she was too busty for the normal jackets. They had to add 2 other layers.
But
she had big tits. Fun fact. Has
hot
big tits.
Lady too. Always has, always will. It gives a lot of books to people. Has a nice little theme park in Tennessee if anybody ever wants to go. Dolly would. But in any case, the Russians aren't going to have winter uniforms. They're going to be wearing their greenies, and they're not going to have white uniforms, and it's going to be funny. I guarantee,
drones are going to pick them off constantly.
I I don't have that confidence. I think if Russia needs something, I think China's going to give it to them.
No fucking way. No way.
China's not even they're not acting like friends right now. They're
China needs us involved in this war so that they can fuck around with Taiwan. Like I think that China's backing off just enough to make it seem like they're not a problem. But I could very much see like if Russia gets to a point where they need uniforms, fuel, and food, I could absolutely see China giving it to them.
They've needed all those things for months.
Russia is nowhere near committing its full strength right now. Like, I mean, we saw what they did just this past week with the airstrikes. Like Russia has been limiting
the only reason Russia's getting embarrassed on the world stage is they're not really trying. That's a solid theory.
I think
the entire world is making fun of Putin. Suddenly he's gone from this badass guy who rides bears and naked or shirtless on horseback. We're all wishing he was our leader. Now he's a fucking joke in platform shoes who's gay. And he's probably just not trying, right?
You heard it here, folks. Vladimir Putin, a homosexual.
I've got some friends who are.
He's on his platform shoes and he's gay. It's like third grade band.
And he's bolder than our president.
Guess what, Putin? You're gay. Take that.
The perception change in Putin. He's an international embarrassment. I think the theory that he's just not really trying and that
the emperor has no clothes.
I mean, I don't think it's much of a. I don't. Not to get too argumentative about it, but I don't think it's so much of a theory. Is like if you look at it objectively, he's not committing his full strength, and I think it's because he wants more of Ukraine than just Donbass. So I think he's trying to avoid a airstrikes on civilian targets kind of war.
Do you think that's why they're giving away so many tanks, because they just don't have enough fuel and they abandon them and they let the tractors tow them away because he just probably doesn't care?
No, I think that he's playing a much longer game. I think this is a war of attrition for him.
This is a long game. Okay, war of attrition.
Look at the United States. If you look at the U.S. right now, when Putin invaded, the entire United States population was very pro-Ukraine. Let's support them. Let's give it all we've got. The world. I think even the Biden administration, like the CIA, if I remember correctly, was convinced this war would be over in like a month and a half and that Ukraine was going to lose completely. And then it kind of ended up going a lot longer because Ukraine did a much better job of fighting than anybody anticipated. But now we've got U.S. Special Forces on the ground. We have Green Berets in Ukraine. That is, as reported by The Intercept, that is the case right now. The CIA and the Green Berets are both back in Ukraine.
I need
The Intercept. The Intercept.
I don't know what that means.
It's a news organization. Yeah.
It's on the
it was founded by Glenn Greenwald. But we've got special forces on the ground. We're more involved than was being led on. So that's one issue with it. And then there's also if you look over the last 6 months, U.S. Support for the war among the population is rapidly declining. A lot of people are saying, hey, why was aid for Ukraine and a hurricane relief bill for Florida? What the fuck is that? So I think for Putin, he's still got options on the table that are not just, I think that at the very beginning, it was a blitzkrieg. That was the goal, was we're going to go in, we're going to overwhelm them, and we're going to get the territory we want. I don't think he ever planned on going west of the Dnieper. But I think he's come to a point where now there's a couple options. Either he can go full throttle and do airstrikes on cities, maybe use tactical nuclear weapons, any number of things. There's the possibility that they're going to route nuclear weapons into Belarus so that Belarus can launch the nukes, which means that Russia didn't do it. I don't know about nuclear weapons at the moment. That seems a bit far-fetched. But the other possibility is if he can just keep the war going and keep the Ukrainians needing more and more assistance from the West, he can bleed the West until.
Oh, you're so wrong about
your theory is that Russia is going to bleed the West, and your theory is that he's giving away tanks and artillery.
I didn't say he was giving away tanks.
Economy is
he is.
I did not say that though.
You said he was fighting a war of attrition. No. You said he was fighting a war of attrition. You said that he was playing the long game. And what's actually happening is Ukraine will be low on ammo. Then they take over this school or whatever. Then they have all the rounds they need. That's not how you win a war of attrition. I'm reminded of this scene in Moneyball where all the baseball experts are like, man, this guy hits really well. When he hits it, the sound of the ball coming off the bat, it dings, it pops. You should see this guy. He's like a fucking tiger with muscle stretched over his skin or whatever. And they're all bred. And he's like, and then Brad Pitt's character is like, hey, If he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? Why is he getting on base? I could see his batting percentage. If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? And everyone's like, well, you got to hear the ball come off the bat. Then you'd be more impressed. If he's such a good fighter, why doesn't he fight good? Right? Why is he losing all this territory? Why is he losing his tanks?
I think they're holding back.
What are they holding back? Like specifically,
this airstrike last week was like that was the first time they'd done that. They hadn't done something like that before.
I understand
about
all the cruise missiles they shot.
I understand what he's saying with the cruise missile thing, because I did see something about them shooting way further into Ukraine than they had previously. Kiev. However, this idea that Russia could bleed the West, it's mismatched as far as resources. Russia's the one getting bled right now. They just had their main source of income taken out of the equation. Their main bargaining chip over Germany and Western Europe, their supply of energy, seized away from them. They're losing billions of dollars from that. And it makes Europe more dependent on us for support and energy. And so Russia should be fucking freaking out, because on the global stage, they are losing in a serious big way. We are seizing more influence from them. So the bleed them out thing, I definitely don't see that. The US is on a geopolitical stage, but fucking Russia. We have an
election.
Resources.
We have an election in a month that could easily.
No one cares about this topic.
Totally.
Okay, so we have an election. You keep talking about the people are going to think this and that, but you're going to have two candidates. Which candidate is going to say, and my opponent, he sends money to those dying children over in Europe that are being killed by Vladimir Putin? Can you believe it? And he's going to stand up and say, yes, and I intend to send more if you elect me. And they're going to stand up and fucking clap, because that's how it works. No one is going to win on the platform of turning the gas off to Ukraine while Vladimir Putin's destroying their infrastructure so they freeze this winter. We're going to give them as much money as we can for as long as they'll take it. And we should relish the opportunity.
When Americans are struggling to pay for groceries, it's not going to keep going.
I agree. Run on that platform. You'll be your local mayor. But nobody fucking cares about that jargon when it comes to signing $40 billion over to Ukraine. We're going to do it.
There's a lot of sitting politicians right now who are asking that question, though.
Which ones?
Matt Gaetz, Dan Crenshaw.
There you go. I bet there's a bunch of scary Republicans that have their seats sewn up and are provocateurs who will do anything to go anti-Biden. But I doubt there are any people who have elections to win who are going to say boo, because Dark Brandon's out there now and he's feeding the Ukrainians and he's making the Republicans look dumb left and right.
In our election, the Ukraine shit is not going to be a big talking point. You look at what people are surveyed on, what they actually care about. It's all to do with the economy and the consumer price index skyrocketing, people, energy, food. All of this is going up in a way that hasn't been seen in decades.
Roe v. Wade also.
That's
what's going to be the big thing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. For us, that's what I mean. That would resonate a lot more. Yeah, I agree with you. That I don't think the Ukraine thing is going to get brought up that much, because people are a lot more concerned with what's going on.
Yeah, I don't see it at any point being the Republican candidate gets up there and says, "I want to stop funding the Ukraine war," and the Democrat says, "Well, I want to keep funding it," because that's a losing issue for the Republicans. That would be stupid. But when it comes
to Republicans,
situations,
if they get back in charge, they will be all about giving the money to Ukraine, and it will be the Democrats the whole time that didn't want to do it. They all do this. They all want to fund it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just the way I'm looking at it is in a situation where the United States continues, being able to have its citizens buy food without a problem, buy gas without a problem, all of that, we would absolutely fund Ukraine indefinitely. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who look at it and they say, all right, well, we just sent $50 billion to Ukraine and Flint doesn't have clean water. We just sent $50 billion to Ukraine and, Florida has just been wrecked by a hurricane and doesn't have the money.
We just put out a new aircraft carrier too. Did y'all see that thing? You know what that costs? Nobody fucking cares. It's cool as shit.
Well, but it was also signed off on a decade ago.
So cool, dude.
It's probably not even cool anymore.
Oh, it's the other ones. It's the coolest one. It's the newest one ever.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Russia can win the war if the U.S. is involved. I'm saying if they can hold off until the U.S. is no longer involved, they will win. That's what I'm saying.
The U.S. I don't think the U.S. will get involved unless the Russians go and attack a member of the European Union NATO. I don't think they will get involved. I really hope we don't. But I hope we keep sending them anything and everything they want, short of as long as they won't do anything attack Russia on their territory.